Let's listen to this man. He got some good news for you. Hey, everybody, gather near. The doctor's in the house, so lend him your ear. The things he could say might even make your day. He might even help your pain go away. The doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house.
Oh yeah, ladies and gentlemen, the doctor is in the house. Good day, everybody, and welcome to Dr. Ron, unfiltered, uncensored. Today's topic is Beyond the Numbers, Unlocking Your True Age. And we'll be diving into a topic that affects every single one of us, that is aging. But we're not just talking about how many candles are on your birthday cake. We're exploring the fascinating difference between your chronological age and your biological age. Well, before we get into that, I wanted to just have you hear a quote by Socrates. The quote is, "I cannot teach anybody anything. I can only make them think." And ladies and gentlemen, that is part of what we try and do for our Dr. Ron Wellness Warriors. Teach you to critically think, to come out of your confirmational bias. Because we're starting into a new era, a golden era, with Robert Kennedy in charge of a lot of important work. But it's going to take our work to get through it all because we've been brainwashed. And you know, our world that we live in, medical error is one of the leading causes of death. That's why I want you to think for yourself. Do you think the pharmaceutical companies want to cure you? Their business model is simple. If they cured you, they would lose customers. But if they ignore the diseases and merely treat symptoms, eventually they will have most of the population of the world over age 40. And plenty of youngsters are also paying customers for them. And the paying customers will be there for the rest of their lives. So I want the wellness warriors to be advocates for their health and their well-being, and to remember that self-care is not selfish. It's a necessity. In our pursuit of bettering the lives of others, we must not forget to nurture our own physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Now, I think for the last couple of weeks, I've been wanting to talk about Ozempic. We'll get there, but not this week, because I just want to lay groundwork for next week's program. The headline is Trust the Science. Well, we heard that all through COVID. And I guess I can say that now that Fauci is no longer around and freedom of speech is coming back to the different platforms. Trust the science. Guess what? 11,000 peer-reviewed papers were just retracted. Now, hopefully I can be more forthright in talking about these studies. Maybe I can get back on YouTube and a few of these other platforms that banish me, because I was talking about these retracted papers. And they were retracted because they were determined to be fake gobbledygook sandwiches. And it turned out that these papers are a whole industry into themselves. I don't want to get too deep into that right now, but I just have to caution you, be careful of what you believe. Question everything, ladies and gentlemen. Well, welcome to this episode of Dr. Ron Unfiltered, Uncensored. And as you know, I am Dr. Ron, and we're going to dive into a topic that affects every single one of us. You're right, aging. But we're not just talking about how many candles are on your birthday cake. We're exploring the fascinating difference between your chronological age and your biological age, and why it matters for your health, your vitality, for your longevity. So what are we talking about? What is chronological versus biological? Chronological age, ladies and gentlemen, is simple. It's the number of years you've been alive. If you were born 40 years ago, your chronological age is 40. But biological age is a whole different story. It's a measure of how old your body seems based on its health and function. Some people you meet might be 50 chronologically, but have the health and vitality of a 35-year-old. And there's a flip side. A 30-year-old might have biological age closer to 45 due to poor lifestyle choices. So chronological versus biological. So biological age is influenced by factors like cellular damage. That word I've talked about for the last 2 years, inflammation, your fitness level, and your overall health. In many ways, it's a better predictor of your risk for disease and even your lifespan than your chronological age. I've talked to you for the last 3 or 4 years since a podcast we had with Dr. I forget his name, who talked about epigenetics and that your genes don't control your life. 92% are influenced by lifestyle changes, epigenetics. So how do you measure? How do you measure biological age? Can you even do it? Well, there are advanced scientific methods that have made it possible. And one is called an epigenetic clock. It measures changes in your DNA that occur as you age. Your methyl groups attach to DNA and they change as you age. And there is a clock called the Horvath clock that's been around since 2013, and it can measure that. And telomere length, remember I told you length matters? Telomeres are the protective caps on the ends of your chromosomes. The shorter your telomeres are, the more it's associated with aging and dis-ease. And the third way is a functional assessment. Tests that measure your strength, your mobility, your cardiovascular health, and other physical markers. In other words, some kind of fitness test like you would take if you were going into the service. So it can be measured. Well, the measures require specialized labs. But there are some consumer-friendly options out there, like a home DNA test. However, it's important with you to work with a healthcare provider to interpret these test results. And also, because we're all concerned about our security, we have to make sure that we do not sign over the results of our DNA test to a third party that can then study them. So what do? You stay in good shape, and we'll get into that in a minute. So if we understand our biological age, we will have a clearer picture of our overall health. If our biological age is higher than our chronological age, it's a wake-up call. You better make some changes. If it's lower, it should be motivating you to keep doing what you're doing. So we can practice and focus on preventative health, targeting the root cause of aging, like chronic inflammation and mitochondrial dysfunction. What have we been talking about on Dr. Ron Unfiltered, Uncensored? We have been talking about inflammation and that term aging. And I started talking last year, 2024, on the mitochondria and how mitochondrial dysfunction is associated with the majority of chronic diseases. And 86% of Americans have a chronic disease. Isn't that awful? Human life expectancy generally has increased in Western countries, but it does not coincide with an increase in our health. In the United States, we're supposed to be the leading edge of science and medicine. Well, guess what? Statistics show that that an 86% of Americans suffer from some degenerative diseases. I think I mentioned last week, in France, it has been shown that 3 million seniors, they are over 60 years of age, are in a situation of extreme dependence. A high percentage of them live in their homes, not being able to walk out and come back. And what do you think is happening? The same thing is happening in our retirement communities. So we're not only talking about physical diseases, we're talking about neurodegenerative diseases. Alzheimer's going to go through the roof by 2030. Parkinson's disease. So we have to employ lifestyle epigenetic changes. So what are some of them? Well, always on everything we're going to be talking about in 2025, we have to talk about nutrition. And we have to focus on foods that are anti-inflammatory, like leafy greens, berries, nuts, and fatty fish that is not farmed raised. And we have to reduce processed foods, ultra processed foods, sugar, seed oil. Sugar can include high fructose corn syrup. Again, we have done podcasts on processed and ultra processed foods, and that's what Robert F. Kennedy will be bringing to the light of day starting this afternoon, hopefully. Now, a typical Okinawan diet, they are very popular in the blue zone. They live a long time over there. You know what they eat? Broccoli, avocados, pumpkins, nuts, red and yellow peppers, watercress, carrots, pomegranate, red onions, grapes, virgin olive oil, virgin walnut oil, beets, sweet potatoes, garlic, red rice, black rice, lentils, and all natural foods rich in vitamins, minerals, and protein. And these foods are good for your microbiome, Mike, saying that you have to have a superior interior to be healthy. That's your intestinal microbiome, which is the majority of your immune system. So they do have in the Okinawan diet foods that feed that microbiome, like tofu, miso, natto, kombucha, fermented foods like sauerkraut, red beets, kefir, and buttermilk. They don't eat a lot of red meat because they feel it interferes with their microbiome. Remember, we have a gut-brain axis. Things that happen in the gut can get through to the brain, especially if there is inflammation and that blood-brain barrier opens up. So food style affects the microbiome, ladies and gentlemen. And let's go back to what I wrote down now. A little bit of a rabbit trail there. Exercise would be number 2. Incorporate both aerobic exercise and resistance training to maintain muscle mass and cardiovascular health. Listen to last week's podcast where we talked about contracting muscles, the concentric muscles, how important it is for your overall health and longevity. Work on it. I will tell you there is an article that I'll look at here in a second, and anyway, I can't see it right now, but it talked about overdoing aerobic exercise and what it does to your health. Well, I can't. Here it is. Study shows endurance exercise may damage your heart and your health. So this aerobic phase, forget it. Just walk fast. Don't overdo it, but do exercise enough so that you are breathing heavily, okay? Dr. Kenneth Cooper, he has retracted his original aerobics program in something more moderate. All right, and the third thing is restorative sleep. I've told you about sleeping patterns, how important they are. Aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night. And we talked about avoiding blue lights 2 hours before bedtime, avoiding blue screens, blue tablets, blue light from computers, sleep in a dark room, a temperature in between 69 and 72. Aim for a good night restorative sleep. You'll hear me saying this time and time again in 2025. And stress management is super important because chronic stress, like inflammation, accelerates aging. We talked about mindfulness, meditation, grounding practices. Look into grounding mats, walking with your bare feet on the beach, on the grass. Factors that can help with stress and with aging. Stay hydrated, but our water is polluted, so make sure you have a good water filter. I'm not saying you have to eliminate alcohol, but limit your alcohol consumption and avoid smoking. Because health is not just about science. It's not just about medication, and it's not even about doctors. It's about creating a lifestyle that respects your body, respects your mind, embracing a attitude of gratitude, and taking responsibility. Remember, science may sometimes be influenced, but your commitment to your own well-being is unshakable. So what's your next step? Well, let's start by taking a close look at our lifestyle. Small changes can have a big impact over time. If you're really left-brained, you might want to talk to your doctor about ways to measure your biological age and develop a personalized plan to stay youthful and healthy. But if you watch your diet, stay hydrated, exercise, get a good night's sleep, and manage your stress, you'll be on your way to being healthier than your stated age. Again, we've been saying this for years. It is not the number of years in your life. It's about the life in your years. So, ladies and gentlemen, on this day, I thank you for joining me on our journey. If you found today's episode helpful, be sure to subscribe on Podbean, Dr. Ron Unfiltered, Uncensored. Please share it with someone you care about. Please stay curious. Always ask questions. Get second opinions. And starting next week, I will start posting again on YouTube. We'll see if the Trump doctrine takes effect there. But I am on Google. I am on Apple. I am on Rumble, BitChute, LinkedIn, of course, Podbean, and others that I don't even know, to be honest with you. So, ladies and gentlemen, stay healthy and stay curious, and I'll see you next time. This is Dr. Ron, host of Dr. Ron, Unfiltered, Uncensored. See you next week.
Hey, everybody, Dr. Ron's finished for today. I hope you got some good wisdom for what the man had to say. If it's all about good health, he's the man you got to see. He has a lot more answers for you. So tune in next week when the doctor is in the house. Or when the doctor is in the house. And let the doctor know what's bothering you. When the doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. Doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. I'm sure he can tell you just what to do. The doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. When the doctor is in the house. So if you have a pain, call the doctor. If you have a strain, call the doctor. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. When the doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. See you next week.